I'm going to explain how dates are set in Project Insight using the intelligent scheduling feature in Project Insight. For those familiar with Microsoft Project, it works basically the same as Microsoft Project with a couple different twists. The first thing that happens if you bring in a new task is, and I'll give it 1 day of duration, is the dates are set to either the project start date, which happens to be earlier than today, or today's date, which happens to be the 27th. So whichever of the two dates are later is what's taken. And the reason for that is a lot of times a project that's already started and in flight, you add a new task. You don't want to have to manually set the date every time. So you'll see that it just set the date for today. So if I sign the task out, it'll just go out right away for that task. And you can see where this is set on the advanced icon. You'll see this setting. Constraint type is as soon as possible after the task created date. If I want to force it to use the project start date, I can change that constraint type to as soon as possible after the project start date, hit save, and now you'll see that this task starts on Monday, 10/19, and it's already overdue because that's in the past. So another way that a task gets its date set is when you create a predecessor for that task. So in this case, I'm going to set a predecessor to this successor task, or no, this predecessor task here, and I save it. Now you'll see that my first task starts Monday the 9th and ends Monday the 9th, and then now my task, which was going to start in October, is now in November because it has to happen after the successor. You'll also notice that the summary task changed its dates. The summary task normally will receive dates from the contents of its children, but a summary task can also push the schedule if it happens to be set as have a predecessor that forces it, the whole package of tasks in that summary forward. We generally don't recommend people setting summary tasks with predecessors because that's not a project management PMI standard, but you can do it. The other way a task can have its dates changed is if you just manually change the date here. Let's say I need it to happen on the 25th. You'll see a little icon showed up. It changed must start on with that little arrow. It tells you that I set a constraint date on it now. And if I hit save, you'll see that that's preserved. You can click on it and actually see that this task must start on November 25th. It also shows the predecessors there as well. So you can edit this task and remove that constraint type and set it back to one of these other constraint types. And now my task is back to November 10th the way it originally was. So this is generally how tasks are scheduled in Project Insight. It goes like this: project start date or today's date, whichever is later, then any predecessors pushing it into the future, and then after that, any constraints you add manually as well. And then, like I noted before, a summary task can push a task, but generally we don't recommend doing that. But if the summary had a predecessor that pushed this into December, then these two tasks would get pushed into December as well. So that's, in a nutshell, how all the dates in Project Insight work.